Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be taking a close look at John F. Demartini's The Breakthrough Experience.
Yeah.
And it's not your typical self-help book. You know, it's
right.
part autobiography, part philosophy.
It's a fascinating blend.
It is. It really is. And it's all about those aha moments that can totally change your perspective, like really shift how you see things.
Absolutely.
So Demartini actually claims that he can help people achieve breakthroughs using something he calls the quantum collapse process.
It's quite a concept.
It is. Have you had a chance to look into that?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty mind-blowing the way he describes it.
Yeah, no. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about Demartini's background.
Oh, absolutely. Because his own journey really informs his teachings, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. He was diagnosed with dyslexia.
Oh, why?
As a child. And he was told he'd never amount to anything.
Oh, imagine being told that as a kid. You know, he specifically mentions his first grade teacher, Mrs. McLaughlin.
Oh, wow.
Telling him that he would never read, write, or communicate effectively.
How do you even recover from that kind of statement?
Like, how do you even...
Right, as a kid.
I mean, that's got to be so discouraging, right?
Yeah.
It's like crushing your spirit.
It's incredible to think that he didn't let that completely derail him.
Yeah.
Instead, it fueled his drive. He actually even dropped out of school at 14 to pursue his dreams.
Wow. So he was determined.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He talks about hitchhiking to California.
Wow.
And having this pivotal encounter
Yeah.
with a bald-headed old bum.
It's like something out of a movie.
I know.
Right.
It's like so unexpected.
Totally.
Yeah. So tell me about this encounter. Like, how did this guy change Demartini's perspective?
Well, this bum, as Demartini calls him, he totally shifted his perspective.
Yeah.
He instilled in him this value of love and wisdom.
Love and wisdom.
Yeah.
Above all else.
Exactly.
Okay.
He told him, those two things, love and wisdom, are the only things the world can't take from you.
Oh, that's a good quote.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so money, possessions, even people you love, you can lose those things.
Right.
But you can't lose love and wisdom. I like that.
Yeah, it really speaks to this core belief that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of a hero's journey.
Right.
This is classic hero's journey. Yeah. So he does eventually make it to California.
He does.
Ends up studying with this health guru, Paul Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that encounter with the bum that really seems to have set the stage for his later work, right?
Absolutely. And, that leads us to one of Demartini's core principles, which is this idea that life exists in a constant state of duality.
Okay. I've heard this duality concept before, but, how does he actually apply it?
Well, it's deeper than just good and bad, right?
Right.
There are always these seemingly opposite forces at play, but they're always in balance.
Okay. So it's not just about there's good and bad in everything.
Right. He uses this great anecdote to illustrate this point.
Okay.
About encountering these three cowboys in El Paso.
Oh, yeah, the cowboy story.
The cowboy story, exactly.
Okay, so remind me of this story.
So he's getting hassled by these cowboys, right?
Right.
And Demartini is ready to fight back. And this old bum, who's been watching this whole thing unfold, he bursts out laughing.
Oh, no.
Right. And he says, "Sonny, that's the funniest dang thing I've ever seen. You took care of them cowpokes like a pro."
Wait, so he's saying that Demartini did a good job handling these guys?
Well, that's how the bum sees it. Right.
Oh, interesting.
But it really highlights Demartini's point.
Okay.
We so often misjudge situations based on just what we see on the surface.
Right. Okay, so how does this tie back to duality? Is it about seeing the good in those bad guys like the cowboys?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. Demartini argues that labeling things as simply good or bad is a trap.
A trap.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When we look deeper, we see that every experience has both positive and negative aspects, and they're always in perfect balance.
Okay, so what we perceive as negative might actually be positive, and vice versa.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, he calls this gratefulism.
Oh, gratefulism, right. It's about acknowledging that balance in all experiences. But isn't that tough when you're dealing with something truly awful, like a personal tragedy? How do you find that balance then?
Demartini would say, even in those dark times, there are lessons to be learned, opportunities for growth that might not have been possible otherwise.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
He uses a personal example. Coming home from work,
Oh, okay.
either elated or depressed, and how his wife would unknowingly balance him out.
So, like, if he came home all excited about a success,
Yeah, pumped up.
she would bring him down to earth a little bit.
Exactly.
And if he was down, she'd lift his spirits. Yeah.
I see. So it's just this natural...
unconscious dynamic.
Yeah, this natural dynamic that was happening.
And it highlights this principle of balance.
That's always at play.
Yeah. Always there, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so that makes sense in relationships.
Right.
But what about bigger life challenges? How do you find that balance when things feel really out of whack?
Well, that's where this quantum collapse process comes in.
Okay.
It's Demartini's method for dissolving those illusions of good and bad and revealing the inherent balance.
That already exists.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it kind of like making a pro-con list?
It's a good way to think about it.
But looking for the hidden connections between the pros and cons.
Yeah. We're trying to find the balance, right?
Right.
He shares this compelling example of a man named David who used this process to shift his perception of his estranged sister.
Wait, David hadn't spoken to his sister for 11 years?
That's right, 11 years because of this huge falling out.
But after doing the quantum collapse process, he had this massive breakthrough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He realized that all the things that he resented her for were things that he himself had done.
Oh, interesting.
At some point.
Wow.
It was like looking in a mirror.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so he saw their shared humanity, their interconnectedness.
Exactly.
And that allowed him to forgive her and ultimately himself, right?
Yeah. It's about letting go of that judgment.
Okay.
And recognizing our shared flaws.
Wow. And they actually reconciled after all that time.
He did.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how does this process actually work? Is there like a formula?
Well, Demartini gives quite a detailed breakdown in the book.
Okay.
But the core idea is to stop labeling things as simply good or bad.
Okay.
And instead, try to see that bigger picture, the underlying balance.
The balance. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just about seeing the balance.
It's about using that knowledge to create real change.
In your life and in your relationships. Yeah, this is pretty radical stuff.
It is.
You know?
And that's what makes Demartini so compelling.
Yeah.
He's all about pushing us to think differently.
Yeah.
To unlock our full potential.
Yeah.
And speaking of potential, Demartini is also a huge advocate for identifying and pursuing your dreams, regardless of past challenges.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's something that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Because his own story is pretty inspiring.
Oh, for sure.
Going from being told that he would never amount to anything to becoming this successful author and speaker.
Yeah. He's a living testament to that idea.
He is.
That anyone can overcome their limitations and achieve their dreams.
Yeah.
If they're willing to put in the work.
Okay, so what are some of the key things he talks about? Like, how do you actually achieve those dreams?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of focus, dedication, and mastering your chosen field.
Okay, those are big ones.
Yeah.
And he tells this great story about this real estate developer who achieved incredible success by streamlining his meetings.
That's right. To maximize productivity.
Wait, so what did he do?
He implemented a system where people had to get straight to the point.
Oh, okay. No more small talk.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see how that could be controversial.
Right.
But I also kind of like it.
Yeah.
If
you're really serious about achieving your goals.
Yeah.
It's about valuing your time and your energy.
And focusing on what matters.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got duality, pursuing dreams. What else does Demartini explore in the breakthrough experience?
Well, he introduces this really intriguing concept of 7 levels of consciousness.
Oh, the 7 levels of consciousness. Okay.
He links them to brain evolution.
Okay.
And verbal expression.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty complex idea.
I bet.
But he basically argues that the more balanced your perceptions are, the higher your level of consciousness becomes.
So the more balanced you are, the more conscious you become.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
And he even suggests that genius is a result of balanced perceptions.
Wow. Okay, so that makes sense.
Right.
But it also raises a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. It's a very fascinating idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we need to dive deeper into this, but it sounds like Demartini is really pushing us to expand our understanding of what's possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Both for ourselves.
And for humanity.
And for humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
That's a big concept.
It is, and that's what makes his work so compelling.
Yeah.
He's challenging us to question our assumptions, to embrace new perspectives, to step into this greater version of ourselves.
Okay, so we've got duality, pursuing dreams, 7 levels of consciousness.
We just scratched the surface.
We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But I'm already so intrigued.
It's a deep dive for sure.
It is. Let's take a pause here and let all this sink in.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the thought-provoking world of Dr. John F. Demartini.
Sounds good. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about Demartini's 7 levels of consciousness.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
A lot to unpack there.
There is, yeah.
But, you know, he links those levels to brain evolution and how we use language.
Yeah.
Suggesting that more balanced perceptions actually lead to those higher levels of consciousness.
Okay. Yeah, it is a lot to wrap your head around. I'm still curious about this whole duality thing, though. You know, he talks about this gratefulism, finding balance in all experiences.
Right.
But is it really possible to be grateful for something truly terrible?
That's a great question.
Like the loss of a loved one.
Okay.
You know?
It's a tough one, for sure.
It is, yeah.
And that's where Demartini's idea of transcendent forgiveness comes in.
Okay, transcendent forgiveness.
Yeah. It's not about condoning hurtful actions, but rather trying to see the bigger picture. You know, instead of saying it's okay that you did this, it's more about shifting your perspective to thank you for this experience.
Even if it was incredibly painful.
Even if it was incredibly painful.
Yeah. Okay, but how do you even begin to make that kind of shift?
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with like intense grief or trauma. It feels a bit like just get over it, which is never helpful.
You're right. It's definitely not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything's fine.
Okay.
Demartini acknowledges that the pain is real.
Right.
But he challenges us to look for the potential growth hidden within those difficult experiences.
So it's like that saying, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah, there's a truth to that.
Okay, I mean, that can sound a little dismissive.
It can.
When you're really in the thick of it.
Absolutely. It's not about minimizing someone's pain.
Right.
But it's about trying to see a larger perspective.
Yeah. So how does Demartini suggest people actually cultivate this gratefulism?
Well, he offers several tools and techniques, including that quantum collapse process that we talked about earlier.
Right.
But he also emphasizes the power of gratitude in general.
Okay.
Focusing on what you have rather than what you lack can naturally shift your perception.
It sounds simple.
It is, but it's powerful.
But I can see how consistently focusing on the good could make a difference.
Yeah, it's like retraining your brain.
To see the world through a more positive lens.
Exactly.
Okay. So does Demartini believe that we all have a specific purpose?
He talks about this divine design.
Okay, divine design.
The idea that we're each born with unique gifts and talents.
Okay.
Meant to be shared with the world.
Right.
But he doesn't frame it as this rigid plan.
Okay.
He believes that our purpose is to discover and express those gifts. And that often involves finding what brings us joy and makes us feel truly alive.
So it's less about some grand mission
Yeah.
and more about identifying what lights you up.
Exactly, even if it seems small or insignificant.
Yeah. It makes me think about that time I spent like a whole weekend building a Lego castle with my niece.
That's great.
We were both so engrossed, like hours just flew by.
That's awesome.
It wasn't about the finished product, it was just the pure joy of creation.
That's it. That's the feeling.
Yeah, but how do you translate that feeling, that passion, into like a concrete purpose?
Well, Demartini recommends creating what he calls a love list.
Okay, a love list.
You literally write down all the things you would love to be, do, and have in your life.
Okay.
And he emphasizes that this list should reflect your authentic desires.
Right.
Not what you think you should want.
Right. No, I should be a doctor because that's what my parents expect.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got to get real with yourself about what truly matters.
Yeah, it's about tuning into your own inner voice.
Okay, so once you have this list, what do you do with it?
Well, Demartini advocates for practical strategies. Like visualization, affirmations, and goal setting.
Oh, okay.
He believes in having a clear vision of what you want to create.
Right.
And then taking consistent action.
To make it happen. Okay, so you've got to be both a dreamer and a doer.
Yeah. You got to have that inner vision, but also take those tangible steps.
You bring it to life.
Yeah. It applies to anything, really.
Yeah.
Starting a business, writing a book, or even just improving your relationships.
So he also talks about the power of affirmations, right?
He does.
He's well known for that affirmation. I am a genius and I apply my wisdom.
Yeah, he encourages repeating that daily.
You really embody it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I've always been a little skeptical of affirmations.
They can feel a little cheesy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
But I get what he's saying about, like, programming your subconscious mind. It's like giving yourself permission to believe in your own brilliance.
Exactly.
Okay. So he also stresses the importance of setting specific, measurable goals.
Yes.
Right.
Not just vague aspirations.
Okay, so instead of I want to be successful, it's like I want to launch my own business within a year.
Exactly. He believes that goals need to be clearly defined with deadlines and action steps.
To have power. I like that. He even shares a story about being asked to speak at a dental convention.
Yeah, when he was still a chiropractic student.
Oh, wow.
And he had this goal of sharing his research on a specific dental topic and establish himself as an expert.
And he pulled it off as a student.
Despite some initial skepticism, he ended up giving this 4-hour presentation that was incredibly well received.
Wow.
And it goes to show, right?
Yeah.
The power of focus, determination, self-belief.
It's inspiring, but also a little intimidating.
Yeah, right.
It's like if you set your mind to it, you can achieve anything.
And that's the message.
Even if it seems out of reach.
Yeah. It's not about waiting for opportunities to fall into your lap.
But creating those opportunities to be proactive.
Yeah. He's a big believer in trusting your intuition.
Oh, intuition. Okay. Aha moments.
Yeah, when inspiration strikes.
Exactly.
Like when you get that sudden idea for a project or a solution to a problem that's been bugging you. Yeah. Demartini would say pay attention to those moments.
They're guiding you.
Yeah.
He encourages like writing down those insights and following those threads of inspiration.
Even if they don't make sense at first.
Okay.
He believes that those intuitive leaps often lead to the most innovative ideas and breakthroughs.
So it's about balancing logic with intuition.
Yeah, that analytical mind with the creative spirit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not about one being better than the other. It's about finding that integration.
Yeah.
And that's where his concept of integrating both sides of the brain comes in.
Okay.
He argues that true genius comes from that integration, combining the scientific with the artistic, the strategic with the visionary.
We need to be both architects and builders, right?
Yeah, designing the blueprint for our lives and then taking those steps to bring it into reality.
Right, and that integration ultimately leads to a life that's purposeful and fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we can't forget about relationships in all of this.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Relationships are a huge part of Demartini's work.
So it's not all about, like, solo retreats and self-discovery.
It's a part of it. But
you need other people in the mix, too.
He obviously sees relationships as essential.
Essential.
To our growth and evolution.
Okay.
He believes that every relationship, whether it's romantic, family, friends, even strangers, offers opportunities.
For learning.
Yeah, for learning and expansion.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that saying that, you know, the people closest to us, the ones that we love the most, they're often our greatest teachers.
That's true.
But honestly, sometimes it feels more like they're just driving me crazy.
I can relate to that.
Than teaching me anything valuable.
Right.
You know, like, what's going on here?
Well, Demartini might argue that those moments of friction are precisely where the most valuable lessons lie.
Okay.
He believes those close to us, they challenge us.
Okay.
In ways that no one else can.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
They trigger our insecurities.
Yeah.
They push our buttons.
They do, yeah.
And they force us to confront those parts of ourselves that we might prefer to avoid.
So it's like they're holding up this mirror.
Exactly. Reflecting back those aspects of ourselves that need work.
Right. It's easier to point the finger outward than to look within, right?
Absolutely. And that's what Demartini's encouraging us to do.
To take ownership of those projections.
Yeah, and see them as opportunities for self-reflection.
And healing.
Yes.
Okay, so Demartini's view of relationships is a bit more complicated than just like finding your soulmate and living happily ever after.
It's definitely not a fairy tale.
Right.
It's about embracing the messiness, the challenges, and using those experiences to grow both individually and together.
He also talks about how, like, we tend to project our shadows onto others. Right. Those parts of ourselves that we judge.
We blame them for things we don't like about ourselves. Exactly. We're trying to avoid looking at those aspects within ourselves.
So he's encouraging us to, like, own those projections.
And take responsibility for our own stuff.
Okay, so it's about self-awareness and taking responsibility.
It is.
For your own thoughts, feelings, actions.
Absolutely. And that's what allows for more authentic and fulfilling relationships.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about duality, purpose, consciousness, relationships.
We've been busy.
We have. It feels like we're barely scratching the surface of Demartini's work.
There's so much more to unpack.
There is, yeah.
But one key concept we haven't touched on yet is his exploration of fear.
Okay, fear. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that.
Okay.
I think fear is something that we all struggle with to some degree.
Absolutely.
So how does Demartini approach this topic? Does he just tell us to face our fears?
No, it's much deeper than that.
Okay.
He actually identifies 7 specific areas of life where fear tends to show up.
Okay, 7 areas.
Yeah, he calls them the 7 areas of life.
Oh, the 7 areas of life. Okay.
Spiritual, mental, vocational, financial, familial, social, and physical.
Okay, so he's breaking down all the different ways that fear can show up.
Exactly.
From those big existential fears to the more everyday anxieties.
All of it.
Okay, so can you give me an example of how this works?
Sure. In the vocational area,
okay,
fear might manifest as the fear of failure.
Okay.
Keeping you from pursuing your dream job.
Right.
Or starting your own business.
Or in the social area, it might be a fear of rejection.
Right.
So that leads to isolating yourself.
Or avoiding putting yourself out there. Exactly.
I can relate to both of those, actually.
I think we all can, to some degree.
It's like fear can keep us stuck in our comfort zones.
Playing it safe.
Yeah.
Even when we long for something more.
Yes. So Demartini acknowledges that fear can be paralyzing, but he also emphasizes its potential as a motivator.
Yeah.
So it's a natural part of the human experience.
Right.
It's about how you manage it.
Yeah. Using it as a catalyst for growth rather than letting it control us.
So instead of trying to eliminate fear altogether, which is probably not realistic.
Probably not. No.
It's about learning to dance with it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Dancing with fear.
Okay. But what about those deep-seated fears that feel almost impossible to overcome, the kind that have been with you for years, maybe even since childhood?
Yeah, those are the tough ones.
Yeah. What do you do with those?
Well, Demartini believes that even those deeply ingrained fears can be addressed.
Okay.
He shares a personal anecdote about overcoming his own childhood fear of the dark.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
So even he struggled with fears.
He did.
That makes his message feel a little more relatable.
Yeah. More human.
Yeah.
He emphasizes building that mental resilience.
Okay.
That capacity to bounce back from setbacks and persevere in the face of challenges.
Yeah.
He encourages cultivating courage and determination.
Those are good ones.
Yeah, embracing the unknown and trusting in your ability to handle whatever comes your way.
So it's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's about acknowledging the fear.
But not letting it dictate your actions.
Yeah.
So Demartini's really saying life is going to throw you curveballs.
It is.
It's not about avoiding those challenges.
It's about learning how to hit them out of the park.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
So it's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Yes.
The highs and the lows, the joys and the sorrows.
All of it.
And using those experiences to fuel your growth.
And evolution.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty challenged and inspired by all of this.
Demartini's work will do that to you.
It will, yeah.
It's challenging, but it's also incredibly hopeful.
It is.
And empowering.
It is. So I'm ready to dive even deeper into Demartini's world.
Okay.
There's still so much more to explore in the breakthrough experience.
There is.
But let's take another pause and give our listeners a chance to process all of these ideas.
Sounds good.
We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive.
All right.
Into the extraordinary work of Dr. John F. Demartini. Welcome back to our deep dive into the work of Dr. John F. Demartini.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Exploring all these concepts.
It really has. And, you know, we've been exploring his book, The Breakthrough Experience.
Right.
And unpacking all these profound ideas about balance and purpose and the power of perception.
Absolutely. It's all connected. You know?
It is. It really is.
And one thing that really struck me
Yeah.
is how Demartini emphasizes taking responsibility for your own experience.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't want you to blame others for your circumstances or to see yourself as a victim.
Oh, absolutely. He's all about empowerment.
Yeah.
He believes that we have far more power than we realize.
Oh, for sure.
To shape our reality through our perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he uses this really interesting analogy
Okay.
about how our senses can sometimes deceive us.
Oh, yeah. He talks about how our senses are designed to perceive a world of contrast.
Right, like you can't fully experience hot without also experiencing cold.
Exactly.
You can't see light without darkness.
It's all relative.
Yeah, and he takes that idea further.
Okay.
And applies it to our emotional experiences.
Right.
He says we can't experience true joy without also knowing sorrow.
Right, like you can't have love without experiencing loss.
Okay.
It's like that's just the nature of reality, the built-in duality that makes it all work.
But wouldn't it be nice to just have the good stuff all the time?
I mean, sure, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, who wants to sign up for sorrow and loss?
Right. But Demartini would argue that when we resist that duality, when we try to cling only to the good and push away the bad, that's when we actually create suffering.
Oh, okay.
It's in that acceptance of the whole spectrum that we find true freedom.
He calls that gratefulism, right?
Yes.
Acknowledging that balance in all things. Even the things that might initially feel negative.
Right. It's not about pretending everything is perfect.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there's a balance in everything.
Okay, but isn't there a danger of that turning into toxic positivity?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah, like you're just slapping a happy face sticker on everything, even when things are truly awful.
Demartini is not saying to deny the reality of difficult emotions.
Okay.
He acknowledges that pain is real.
Okay.
But he challenges us to look for the potential growth hidden within those difficult experiences.
Okay. He offers that powerful example of the man who was wrongfully convicted of murder.
Yeah, and spent years in prison.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a heavy example.
It is.
I can only imagine the anger and resentment.
He did feel those things, understandably.
Right.
But then he had this profound shift in his perspective.
Okay.
He realized that if he hadn't been in prison, he wouldn't have had that opportunity to connect with other inmates.
Okay.
And help them turn their lives around.
So he found a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
In this really unjust situation.
He did. He started hosting a radio show from within the prison.
Oh, wow.
Sharing messages of hope and redemption.
That's incredible.
It became his calling, his way of giving back.
Wow, that's a powerful testament.
Yeah.
To how our perception can really shape our reality.
It really can, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It drives home Demartini's point about choice. You know, we always have a choice in how we respond
to life's challenges.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy to make that choice, especially when you're in pain.
No, it's not. No.
Demartini acknowledges that.
Okay.
He's not advocating for denial of negative emotions.
Right.
But he is encouraging us to look for the potential for growth and learning.
In every experience.
Yeah, even the ones that feel unfair or painful.
He also talks about how our perceptions can impact our physical health.
Right.
Right.
Right. He cites studies showing how holding on to grudges and resentment can actually negatively impact our well-being.
So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts.
No, it's deeper than that.
It's about aligning our thoughts with a deeper understanding of reality.
Yeah, this idea that everything is in balance, that everything serves a purpose.
Right, but honestly, sometimes it feels like life is just chaos.
I get that.
Right, a random series of events with no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
How do you find that sense of order when things feel so out of control?
Well, Demartini would say that's where our intuition comes in.
Okay, intuition.
The inner voice.
Right.
Trusting our gut feelings.
Okay.
Paying attention to those moments of inspiration.
So, like, those times when you get a sudden flash of insight.
Yeah.
A solution to a problem that's been bugging you or an idea for a project.
Those are the whispers of intuition.
Oh.
Those are the moments to pay attention to.
He says, write them down. Explore them further.
Yeah, don't dismiss them.
Okay, so it's about balancing that logical, analytical mind
with our intuitive, creative side.
Finding that sweet spot where they work together.
And Demartini believes that true genius arises from that integration.
Right.
Bringing together the scientific with the artistic, the strategic with the visionary.
And he reminds us that we all have that potential.
We all have that spark of genius within us.
It's a powerful message.
It
really is a reminder that we are not just passive recipients of life,
but active creators of our own reality.
Wow, I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
As you should.
Demartini's work is definitely challenging, but it's also incredibly hopeful and empowering.
It's about seeing the possibilities.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners will remember?
I think Demartini would want us to remember that we are not victims of our circumstances.
Okay.
But creators of our own reality. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions.
And as we make those choices consciously,
from a place of love and gratitude,
we have the power to transform our lives.
And the world around us.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of life.
The light and the shadow.
The joy and the sorrow.
All of it.
And recognizing that everything serves a purpose.
Even the most challenging experiences.
As we leave our listeners with this final thought, we invite you to consider this. What if the most challenging experiences in your life have actually been the greatest catalysts for growth?
A powerful question.
It is.
To reflect on.
How might your perspective shift if you saw those challenges not as burdens, but as opportunities?
For transformation.
Yeah.
It's a journey worth taking.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Into the extraordinary work of Dr. John F. Demartini.
Absolutely.
We hope you've been inspired, challenged, and maybe even a little transformed.
That's the goal.
By his unique perspective on life, balance, and personal growth.
There's always more to learn and discover.
Until next time,
So
keep seeking,
keep growing,
and keep diving deep.
See you next time.